The psalmist writes in Psalms 23 that the Lord is my shepherd, that I shall not want, that he makes me lie down in green pastures, that he leads me beside the still waters, that he restores my soul, that he leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. These are familiar words to us, and because they are true, we can come together and celebrate the life of Andrew McKenzie. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Kelly, and I'm the pastor here at the Malibu Gathering Church. And we want to say thank you very much on behalf of the McKenzie family for joining us this afternoon to celebrate the life of Andrew McKenzie as a son, a brother, a dearly loved family member, and a close friend. We understand that the reality of life is that we often experience grief and sorrow. And often that is the result of having to say goodbye sooner than we would like. And part of our hearts right now hurt because we've had to say goodbye to Andrew sooner than we liked. But our hearts are also joyful because of the memories and because of his life and because of the mark that he put on all of our lives. I want to share just a couple of thoughts about my most recent experiences with Andrew. And they are ordinary experiences. Most recently, I was driving home from this property here, and I was making a right-hand turn onto Heathercliff off of PCH. And I saw Andrew walking by holding his caramel macchiato iced frappuccino. And the interaction was as simple as this. We made eye contact. I waved at him. He smiled. And that was it. But there's something about that interaction that has stuck with me. And it was the memory of Andrew walking with dignity as a free man with his caramel macchiato. It was a good day. And that was my memory of Andrew, seeing him that day. Freedom, independence, enjoying the day. A young man enjoying life. Many of us don't fully know the extent of the challenges that Andrew experienced in life. They were complex and they were many, and more than most of us will know. And his desire for life and relationships and enjoyment will stick with me. Many of you know Andrew, and you know his sense of humor. And one of my most memorable and enjoyable was when, not too long ago, he came up to me and said, "Do you want to vomit jelly bean?" And if you did not hear me, yes, the word vomit is correct. And it was with his half smile, half giggle that he could not pull it off at all. And I said, "Andrew, thank you very much, but my boys are right over there, and they would love a vomit jelly bean." There's something meaningful there that I've been thinking about for a long time. And that is this, is that as human beings, we like and need to feel connected to people. And humor can do that. Andrew's ability to build relationships and connect with people through humor is valuable. It touches something deep within our souls to feel like we matter and we have friends in life. We live in a world that is often hurtful, unkind, and Andrew, when we reflect and think about his life, as I have this week, He reminds us that we all need community. We need friendships. We need each other in life. And there is a place for humor to build friendships. There is a place for all of us to look at our lives with humility and reflect on Andrew's life and see the value of building relationships with one another. Our hearts hurt because Andrew is gone, but our hearts are also filled with joy and laughter. Over the last week and a half, I've had probably very similar emotions as many of you, and that is tears and laughter, and thinking about the things that Andrew has done in my interactions with him. And that combination is valuable for us to enjoy. We are going to continue this afternoon in celebrating Andrew's life through music and through words of encouragement, words of testimony, and through words of Scripture.
Oh, I have been a beggar and shall be one again, and few the ones withheld to lend within the world of men. One day I walk in flowers, one day I'll walk on stones. Today I walk in hours, one day I shall be home. And I have sat on the street corner and watched the boot heels shine, and I've cried out glad and cried out sad with every voice but mine. And one day I'll walk in flowers, one day I'll walk on stones. Today I'll walk in hours, one day I shall be home. And one day I'll walk
Psalm 139. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there, your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light will become night around me, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night will shine like day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well.
Get close. How's that? Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. My name is Allison Rash, and I had the privilege of being Andrew's third grade teacher, although I'm quite certain that I learned more from him than he ever learned from me. And when I think of Andrew, I think of 4 enduring gifts. So the first gift that comes to mind when I think of Andrew is boldness. I only taught third grade for 3 years, and now I teach college. But Andrew's the only student who has ever made fun of my name, at least to my face. And he would look at me and he would, get kind of a ornery half smile, trying not to smile, which he wouldn't do very successfully. And he would call me Mrs. Smash, which is actually, I think, better than Mrs. Rash. But it was never in a way that was disrespectful. But at 9 years old, it was quite bold. The second thing that comes to mind when I think of Andrew, and I think this one's really obvious, is courage. So a couple of years after Andrew was in my class, I was being wheeled down hospital corridors in the middle of the night for an emergency surgery. And it was the first surgery I'd ever had, and everything about it terrified me. In fact, I think up to that point, that was the most scared I'd ever been in my life. And then there was this moment when Andrew came to mind, and I thought, Andrew does this all the time. By 9 years old in third grade, he'd already had several brain surgeries, not to mention other surgeries. And I thought, if Andrew can face those moments with courage and bravery, then I can do this today. And in that moment, the fear was gone, and it definitely wasn't the first time, and since then, not the last time that I've thought of Andrew when I've had to call on my own courage. But it was just so significant in that moment. The third thing that comes to mind, and we were talking about this morning already, is determination. So Andrew knew what he wanted to do and what he didn't want to do. And as a teacher, and I'm sure as a parent at times, that could be challenging. Because if we were ever in a standoff, I would always put my money on Andrew. When he made up his mind, he wouldn't budge. And that steadfast determination is such a gift. The fourth thing that comes to mind when I think of Andrew is his sense of humor. I cannot think of him without a smile crossing my face, and I'm quite certain that if he was here today, he wouldn't let me get away with showing up with this hairdo, no matter what the reason, without at least a little razzing. So he found humor in so many things. For years after I was his teacher, we would get together, usually at Wahoo's Fish Tacos, and he would tell me jokes, or he would tell me about funny things he'd done with his dad, or with Graham, or with Sarah Grace, or something silly that Sarah Dog had done, or a prank he'd played on his mom. And his sense of humor brought joy, and this joy was so contagious, is so contagious. In fact, yesterday before I got on the plane, my husband Brian left out a letter that he'd written to you, Allison and Steve, and he shares in it that even though he didn't know Andrew as well, even he can't walk past a Wahoo's Fish Tacos without smiling. And he doesn't smile that often. So, so Andrew's life touched and will continue to touch so many lives. The lives of everyone in this room, in this place, who knew him and loved him. The lives of those who, for various reasons, can't be here today. And the lives of people like my kids, Flynn and Zuzu, who will always know why Mom and Dad get huge grins when we pass the Wahoos. So, Allison and Steve, I just want to thank you for bringing Andrew into this world and sharing him with all of us, for raising him in a way that fostered these gifts in him, for sharing your faith with him and with me, for walking this road you have walked together, a road that hasn't always been easy and now has just gotten even harder, but you continue to walk it so well. And Graham and Sarah Grace, I know as his siblings, you played no small part in the person that Andrew was, so thank you both. I was reading a book called There's No Place Like Hope, and in it, the author shares this metaphor that Father Leo shared with her. And she says that life is like a day in the park. Some kids get to stay and play all day, some until midday, and some just get to play for the morning. Then their father comes to call them home. And it is we who are left who must remember that home is not a bad place to be. So I believe that when our Father calls each of us home, Andrew's going to be there to greet us with some prank, trying to hide a smile. And until then, I think the best way that we can honor Andrew is to approach each day the way that he did, with boldness, with courage, with steadfast determination, with a sense of humor, and just a touch of honoriness. Thank you.
I have the joy of being one of the grandparents of our good and wonderful Andrew. What a pleasure. Now hear the words of the Lord. From the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. He opened his mouth and began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God." And again from John chapter 14, Jesus comforts his disciples. Listen to what he says. "Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. God's word.
My name is Rick Metzler. My wife and I run a martial arts school. It's called The Pit. Sounds like a scary place. And I know that we're all, especially the ones that are up here speaking, we're sharing with you about the way our life was affected by him. And we each have our own experiences, as do all of you. And I know that we're going to all continue to have those thoughts and memories. What I'm going to share with you are mine. I just so you know what my perspective is, I began martial arts about 40 years ago. It's been a mainstay in my life. It's been something that I rely on, I trust, a religion of sorts. And it wasn't until late 2007 that we decided, my wife and I, with her support, to open up a karate school. I was teaching at Malibu Methodist Nursery School. I loved working with kids, but I hadn't been brave enough to open up a school. One of the things that was a continuum from working with kids in the preschool and working with students in a karate school or training people privately is how much of an honor and a privilege and an opportunity it is to be able to connect with people on what really is a pretty intimate level. Fighting is intimate. Sounds crazy to some people, but maybe some of you will understand. You're grabbing a hold of each other. You're trusting each other. You're making yourself vulnerable. You're there really to make your weaknesses stronger, so you have to show your weaknesses. These are telling things about people's personalities and about who they are on the inside. Some of the things that happen when we're training is psychologically you might not be up to it. Emotionally, physically, you might not be up to it. And how you respond to that discomfort says a lot. It might be wanting to be done 50 reps before the person says 10 more reps. It might be not even wanting to go that day and still going. And Andrew was, to date, and I've trained with some really tough guys, he was to date, there's no one been tougher than him. There's no one that I've seen dig deeper. It's already been talked about. There's gonna be a common theme, I think, with everyone that's up here. The level of resolve that he had when he set his mind to something. When he started with me, Allison and I talked a little bit about it. I'm not sure if it was the parent of one of our students or maybe a fellow teacher, but someone had suggested that Andrew come and check our place out. He was a little bit low at that time, and understandably, Allison wanted to make sure that I knew that he was missing a kidney, that he had certain medications, things like that. He began training with me in the spring of 2013, May. I had to go back and look and see exactly when it was, but it was May of 2013, and his mom would usually bring him and pick him up. But there were times when he would take the bus, right? And I'd look at the clock, because he was always on time, and I would look at the clock and I'd see a minute go past. Yeah, I like to start on time. I'd see a minute go past or 2 minutes go past, and then I'd hear him coming up the stairs all sweaty with his gym bag. And he'd say, the bus driver missed a stop. It stopped all the way down there, and he would run all the way up PCH with his gym bag. Now, I didn't beat him. I didn't scream at him. It was because it meant that much to him. It mattered, you know? He maintained that level of discipline and dedication through every single aspect of his training. Anything I asked him to do. And sometimes I asked him to do crazy stuff. He'd look at me like, what? He'd ask me to repeat it. Those are the kind of things that, as a teacher, as an instructor, a karate guy, discipline, all that kind of stuff, anyone that's trying to help someone and you know what you're offering them is going to help them, you want them to do it, right? But not everyone does. Not everyone has that kind of dedication and fortitude. Andrew had it. All right, Walker, Texas Ranger. Most of you guys know it. For those of you that don't, Chuck Norris played a Texas Ranger, and he kicked butt. I think Andrew expected that I had seen every episode. He turned the tables on me. I was not living up to his expectations. And I'm going to say that the guilt trip he laid on me for not knowing it forced me to go and find it on YouTube, anywhere I could find these episodes, because I knew he was going to come in and start making references. And maybe in the beginning, there was a feeling out process. Maybe he was a little nervous, and understandably he wanted a point to connect on. But so did I, because I didn't know all the things he was talking about. And I did go and I did do my homework, and it was a point of reference, and then an ongoing joke as the years went by. But all joking aside, the things that he normally commented on when he'd ask me, did you see this episode? Did you see that episode? Usually the things that he commented on were things about life. And it could have been anything. It happened to be Texas Ranger. It could have been anything. He was paying attention to things in that show about goodness, about fairness, things that differentiated right from wrong, things that he was curious of how true that is about life. He really wondered, is that how life is? Or is that how life can be? Do you think there's people like that? He was curious about that, like we all are. No one here is so old and wise that we still don't wonder those things. So about his training, like any new student, there was a filling out process, like I mentioned, and there was a shock. I don't know if any of you have jumped into a new training system and all of a sudden you realize oh man, this is hard. I'm going to say more than half of the people that jump in and start training really hard the way that we do, they find things that are more important to do, and they don't show up as often. I softened it sometimes for some people, and maybe I did a little bit for him, but I only can go so far down. And he would get tired sooner than he wanted, but he never quit. There were some moves that were easier for him than I expected, and then there were some that were harder than he or I expected. He never quit. And a lot of people would have. Between the conditioning, the discipline, and the coordination, balance, left and right, brain having to function in unison, all those things that I required of him, a lot of people would have quit. He didn't. And I had faith that he wouldn't, but I knew that he might. I knew that was a possibility. I really did. I didn't want him to, but I needed to give him the kind of respect that he gave me. And I thought he could do it. He couldn't jump rope very well. Most people can't when they come in, and we use steel cable jump ropes. And we're in a karate school, so we have bare feet. It hurts when you don't get over the rope. It leaves a welt. We've never lost a toe or anything, but it does leave a welt. And there'd be times when he started jumping rope that the goal was 2 times over it. And it's the normal goal for anyone. Get over it twice without having to stop. Get over it 5 times. Get over it 10 times. Get over it 100 times. Get over it 200 times. Well, when you start getting up into those high numbers, it's just the laws of average. You're gonna mess up. So, and it's okay to mess up. It wasn't like you had to do it straight, but you want to get through it. There were times when I would give him a high number, like, okay, the warm-up today is 500 jump ropes. And he would look at me like I was crazy. And I go, no, really? Okay. And he'd do it. He would do it. The majority of our work together was on practical self-defense, heavy on fitness. And he he wanted to explore lots of different things. He wanted to explore stick fighting, Filipino stick fighting. He became proficient in that. Left and right, it was a good break for his body if he was working really hard physically to let his mind start working. And then he got interested in Hawaiian Kempo. It took him 3 years from 2013 to 2016 before I thought he was ready to test for his first belt. And it was a daunting task because if his training had been that hard, then how hard was his test going to be? And it was a hard test. He received his first belt, and by the time he received that belt, he was hitting harder with better technique than some high-level belted students that I've seen, better than some black belts I've seen, actually. He was hitting hard, so much so that I had to buy special gloves for him. I'm not joking, because I was the one he was usually hitting. I wanted his hands to be safe, but his hands would have been fine. I was the one he was hitting. He ended up having better gloves than anyone in the school, including me. Yeah. So there was a time where someone that I had worked with was doing an MMA fight. I didn't tell Andrew. I checked with Allison and Steve. I didn't want to get his hopes up, but I wanted to see if he could go. They agreed, and so Andrew went with me. We were standing out in line to get some tickets, and someone I knew came over and gave us some tickets, and they ended up being in the VIP section. Next thing you know, fast forward, we're sitting ringside at a table. I don't know if I ever told you guys this. We're sitting ringside at the table. It's being catered. They're bringing food, just a surplus of food. Andrew's sitting there with his feet up in the air, eating food, watching the fights. So every time after that, he's like, so when are we going to the MMA fights again? Yeah, and I kept trying to insist it's not always like that. I've never had this before. But there was no convincing him. Just the last little story. So we have a little warm up that we do, and sometimes warm ups turn into workouts. It's warm up called the dice game, and the dice game you can do it all different ways, but the way that we normally did it and the way that I did it with Andrew is you have 2 dice, you roll the dice, whatever comes up, you do that number of exercises. It's pretty basic, but it's a good warm. So the first time on this one day, he rolled the dice, and he got a 1 and a 2. So the number's 3. He did 30 jump rope, 3 burpees, right? 10 times and one time on the face value. So he did 30 and 3. The next roll, he gets a 2, or he gets a 3 and a 4. And he goes, whoa, 3 and a 4. I says, yeah, 7, so 77, let's go. He goes, yeah, but just be quiet, just do the workout. Yeah, but wouldn't that be strange? Wouldn't that be, what? Just do your jump rope, we'll talk later. So he does his 70 jump rope, but he can't get to the burpees without saying anything. He goes, wouldn't it be weird if I got a 5 and a 6 on the next roll? 1, 2, and 3 and 4. And I was like, oh, yeah, that would be weird, but do your burpees, right? So he does his burpees, and he does his burpees faster than he's ever done it before because he wants to see what he's going to roll, right? So we go into this whole like ceremony where we're breathing on the dice and we're chanting and we're trying to like conjure up the dice gods, which we kind of believe in. That if you talk to the dice gods, if you're really tired, you'll get snake eyes, and you only have to do right. Anyway, you can imagine what he rolled. He got his 5 and a 6. And to this day, I can't do the dice game without thinking about that. I've told a lot of people that story. It blows my mind. I'm sure some mathematicians out there, I think our son actually did the calculations on it to come up with what the odds are. But Andrew and I were too whacked out at that moment to even try and figure it out. Our minds were just blown. So about a week and a half or 2 weeks before Andrew left us, I was walking out on Point Doom, and I saw this guy wearing a T-shirt of ours. And the school's only been open 11 years. It still kind of wigs me out when I see people wear one of my shirts. So it's kind of like, who's that guy? It was the back of a T-shirt and the back of a person's head. But I saw that it was Andrew, and I went over, and he was chowing down on a piece of pizza, waiting to get his hair cut. And we got to talk. We got to catch up. I hadn't seen him that summer. He had come back the summer before. He had come back and trained with me, but this last summer he was working and staying busy. And I snapped a picture and sent it to Allison at that moment because I was so thankful to see him at that moment. Of course, it means that much more to me now, but I never would have known that I'd be standing here and that we would be celebrating his life this way. That day, at the point, I was celebrating being able to see Andrew. And like you said, I mean, being able to spend a moment with him, seeing him with his Frappuccino walking down the street, and getting a smile and eye contact, and knowing that you have this relationship, it's a special thing. If we're lucky in our lifetime, we may be fortunate enough to meet a person who leaves a mark in our life. Someone who makes you want to be a better person, and someone who makes you better for the time spent with them. That person is likely to have characteristics that we value, hold dear, and want to emulate, traits like integrity, honesty, sincerity, self-discipline, and humility. Andrew had all of these in spades. I promise he did, and we all know that he did. Even if we're luckier, after merely crossing paths with a person like this, or having random points of contact, we may be able to curate a relationship where we're able to relate with that person on a regular basis. Relating meaning an important way to have a good relationship. It's part of the word, right? And in that relating, we learn more about the depth of that person. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to continue to have that person in our lives as we grow, learn, fail, succeed. And we'll be able to turn to them and them to us and check in on each other. I always looked forward to checking in with Andrew, and I always look forward to relating with him and to him and hearing his perspectives on life, people, and his curiosities and the ideas of this world and how we all share it. I'll continue to check in on with him.
Good afternoon. My name is Stuart Miller. I have the privilege of serving as head of school at Riverview School, which is located on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. For over 60 years, our school has been internationally recognized as a leading school with a singular mission of empowering students with complex learning disabilities to maximize their potential. We provide life-changing opportunities to students from 12 to 22 years old who otherwise wouldn't have access to traditional experiences. Andrew was in his final year of the GROW program, which is a program dedicated to helping our students get ready for the outside world. Andrew thrived at Riverview. He had many friends. He had a rich social life, and he was happy. He was happy there. In a letter to Stephen Allison, one student said, "Thank you for sending Andrew to Riverview. He will be in my heart forever. He always made me smile. I remember meeting Andrew my first day of school. He was one of the nicest people I ever met and helped me adjust to being away from home." Andrew enjoyed athletic challenges. He loved dodgeball. He was a talented photographer. He was a basic foods major at Project Forward, which is a program affiliated with Cape Cod Community College. And last spring, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker presented Andrew with his diploma. And he enjoyed helping others and wanted to work in service-oriented internships. He was fiercely independent, and he often presented with a serious exterior, but once you got to know him, you discovered a gentle man, a great sense of humor, and someone who was motivated to succeed. And he dressed for success. Andrew loved dress jackets and suits. It was something that that we were connected about. So most mornings I would see him and he would have a comment about my suit, and I would compliment him about his dress, and he would tell me all about great deals at Banana Republic he would get. And one day Andrew came in and he said, we have a dance in a couple weeks. I have this white dress shirt. Can you help me? I don't know how to get it pressed, clean. And I said, sure. You know what? I'm going in to the dry cleaner. I had to drop off some of my suits. I'll take your dress shirt with me. And then I got busy and a few days passed. Andrew said, you take my shirt yet? How much does it cost? And I said, well, it'll probably be like $4 or $5, but I got a question for you. Do you want a little light starch on the shirt? He said, starch? And he said, I'm from Malibu. I don't know what starch is. And I said, okay, well, it's this thing you spray on shirts and it makes it stiff and the wrinkles go away. We're on Cape Cod, remember. So he said, that sounds pretty cool. Starch, yeah. How much does that cost? And I said, that's probably an extra $1. He said, well, no, it's extra money. I'll pass on that. Sounds cool, though. Maybe next time. And a few more days went by, and I got busy, and I still didn't bring a shirt in. And I said, Andrew, look, I feel bad. I'll make sure it's in time for the dance, I promise. But you know what, buddy? This one's on me. I got to bring my stuff in. I feel bad that you haven't had a chance to get your shirt back. I'm delayed, so I'll pay for it. And Andrew had a sense of humor, right? When he laughed, his shoulders kind of went up. And he stood there and looked at me, and he said, I think I'll take the starch. And then he said, I do that to my dad all the time, get free stuff. So Andrew, he loved coffee drinks, right? That's been mentioned before. His dormitory was located right next to Cafe Riverview, which is a cafe in the community of East Sandwich, Mass. It's owned and operated by the school. And every morning almost he would walk over, and again, he was money conscious, so he'd save his money, walk over, and order his triple caramel crush iced with skim milk. And I'd see him with that drink almost every morning. Students had many ideas about how they wanted to honor Andrew, and one of the more creative ways, and this is from a group of students, to memorialize him was to name a coffee drink after him. So now, if you want to try something really adventurous, a triple caramel crush iced with skim milk at Cafe Riverview, you'll need to order the McKenzie. I had one last week. It was the most productive 3 hours I've had in a long time. Andrew's dorm instructor, Derek Murphy, told me that Andrew was one of his favorite students. He said, I spent more time with Andrew over the last few years than I spent with my own friends and many of my family members. He was funny, a hard worker. I enjoyed hanging out with him, and I hope I was able to teach him a few things along the way. I'm here today on behalf of Andrew's Riverview family, a family of 200 students and their families, 225 staff, 23 trustees, 18 trustees emeriti, some of whom are with us this afternoon. I'm here to say we loved working with Andrew. He was a valued member of our family. We miss him. We take comfort in the wonderful memories we have of Andrew that will keep him alive in our hearts. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you this afternoon and to remember and honor Andrew.
Please sing along with us as the words will be on the screen, if you don't know them. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. But now I see 'twas grace. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieve. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. And when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil the life of joy and peace. And when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, oh, with no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Yes, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Steve and Allison have written some reflections about Andrew, and I'm honored to read them for you today. What we learned from Andrew. Andrew was a special gift to our family. And while he did not fit the mold of typical, he taught us lessons and brought us joys that we otherwise never would have known. Of many lessons learned from our 21 years together, we'd like to share a few themes: simplicity, courage, humor, and understanding. Simplicity. Andrew consistently wanted a few simple things in life. He was forever focused on these few things: to find connection and a sense of belonging with others, to be respected and treated as an equal, to enjoy a great meal, and to have some serious fun. That's it. And those that know him best can confirm it. Courage. Andrew's first major surgery was removal of a kidney at age 4. Over the years, he would have 3 brain surgeries, a stint in the ICU for encephalitis, hospitalization for pneumonia and asthma threatening his breathing, plus over 100 seizures and numerous outpatient procedures. We can honestly say that he never once objected to being taken to the hospital or undergoing these many procedures. During a persistent seizure episode at age 8, he was airlifted to UCLA Medical Center for an emergency intervention. His visit included piecing his skull to relieve excess cerebrospinal fluid pressure. A few days after getting home, he stopped in to see our dear friends and neighbors, Bob and Wendy Wolf. When asked how the UCLA experience had been, he reported, "I got to watch TV and stay up later than Graham." It seemed he knew that he was facing what was necessary in these many medical interventions, and he didn't see the need to complain. It inspired us and others along the way. Humor, one of his trademarks. Andrew used humor with zeal and purpose, sometimes just for fun, other times to make a serious point or to demonstrate that he had been listening and he understood more than we had assumed. His wit was not always gentle, but over time we came to believe that the more mercilessly you were targeted by his humor, the better he evidently liked you. His jokes surprised and delighted us over the years. Okay, on occasion there was public embarrassment, but mostly surprise and delight. His humor revealed a native intellect that could break through his officially diagnosed challenges with processing speed or reading comprehension and say, "I'm here, I get it, and I hope you get it too." Understanding. The vulnerable among us have a unique ability to reveal the true character of those around them. And while it is a regrettable fact that people with disabilities are often taken advantage of by bullies and opportunists, Andrew had many angels whose kindness and support really showed that they understood. The guy at Subway who understood that Andrew needed extra time to figure out his order and always made certain to wait on him when he came through the door, which was often. Or some kind friends who always had an eye out for him in high school or around town. The many family and friends who repeatedly welcomed him in their homes, played games he enjoyed, or simply listened intently to his current topic of interest. Unless there be any doubt, Ace always knew which side you were on. Andrew also broadened our view and understanding of people by showing that truth can be found in the tension of seeming paradox. He was incredibly strong, yet also quite fragile. He was a simple guy with complicated problems. His challenges and disappointments were significant, but his joy was great. He had few peers by conventional measures, yet connected with many people. Simplicity, humor, courage, and understanding, which for us added up to great joy. A joy that has been abruptly interrupted, but will someday resume forever. Exceptional people like Andrew helped reveal the mysterious side of life. They keep us humble, full of wonder, and focused on the basics. We love you, Ace. You changed us and our whole family for the better, and we long to see you again someday.
So we're gonna show a slideshow and some videos that I put together for Andrew, but real quick, I wanted to share how he got the nickname Ace. So about 10 years ago, or no, when he was 10 years old actually, we had a place in Rincon and we were playing cards. My dad and him were playing cards, and Andrew suspiciously kept getting the aces pulled. And to this day, we don't know if he was pulling a trick on us or not, but we're pretty sure it was just luck. And my dad said, if you keep getting aces, we're gonna have to call you Ace McKenzie. And from then on, he's been known as Ace. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that, and now we're gonna play a slideshow.
When I woke, I was not awake. The light from the sun fell so far away. I went up with all of my strength, straight for the sun. From the depths I sprang, and I drank from the sea. But it opened up and swallowed me, so I sank down deep. Now I'm drunken like a seasick dream in the stream. I am awake. me until I could be away in this dream. I'm away.
Just a small portion of your love winds me up like a clock. Just a small portion of your love. I'm like a river, I'll run and never stop. Oh, just a little bit, go a long way. Just as long as I get a little, each and every day. Just a small portion of your love seems to move my troubles away. Just a small portion of your love, and I'll go to work for no pay. Oh, your love pacified me. You know how it soothed my time, but knowing I've got you, give me peace of mind. Ooh, baby, you don't know what you do for me.
Steve and Allison, S.G. Graham, we offer our friendship to you as your hearts heal. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us Andrew and allowing us to know him, to share life with him. Our hearts hurt, but we have joyful memories. And I pray for the McKenzie family that as their hearts slowly heal, that your presence will be continually with them. We thank you that you give us your presence, that you heal our hearts, that you bring joy into our lives, knowing that Andrew is now in your presence. We thank you for your grace and for your love, your unconditional love. We are truly grateful, and we are all better people here this afternoon for knowing Andrew. We ask these things in your name. Amen. I want to invite you to offer your love and condolences to the McKenzie family immediately after our last song. They will be standing over by Andrew's table and would like to invite you to offer your love and condolences to them.
Made me better, fond memories made me lie down with a smile. Everything that I said after would fall. That dies has first to live. As longing becomes love, as night turns to day, everything changes. Joy make me better, a fond memories make me lie down with a smile. Everything that rises afterward falls. But all that dies has first to live. As longing becomes love, as night turns to day, everything changes. Joy changes. Everything changes. Joy will find the way. Joy will find the way. Joy will find a way.
We invite you to join the family for fellowship